Guten Tag. Grüß Gott. Thank you, Anya, for the introduction. Thank you, Steffi, and all of you at DLD for the opportunity to be here today. Thank you all for choosing to be here. I know you've had a lot of speakers. I'm told I have 15 minutes. The clock is already going, and I don't want to get, played off, so we're going to jump right into it. I've been a speechwriter for nearly 30 years. What that means is I help leaders in business and politics and government tell their story, communicate to their audiences, hopefully clearly and effectively. And for 8 years, I was also a speechwriter for President Obama. And what I want to do today in the 13 minutes that I have left is share a few of those lessons with you, specifically how we can continue to speak with humanity in the age of AI. In the years that I worked for President Obama, I traveled to more than 40 countries, including a number of times here in Germany. Some of you remember these trips. Most of the time, they were business. Sometimes there was a little fun. But in all those 8 years, every day was a learning experience. Being able to, before one of those trips, for instance, getting ready for a trip to Germany, we'd meet with the president in the Oval Office and talk through what he wanted to say, how he wanted to say it, how he wanted to communicate to the people of the world. And like I said, every day was a learning experience. We would get edits from him all day long. First thing in the morning when I hadn't had a chance to put on a proper clothes. In this case, I've been up all night working on a speech. They told me the president had last-minute edits, and I begged them not to send me in. I hadn't shaved, I hadn't showered, I hadn't put on deodorant. I obviously wasn't dressed appropriately to deal with the president of the United States. But when you work at the White House, there's always a White House photographer there to catch you in your least professional moment. Sometimes the president liked to sit right next to us while we made the edits to his speech. This is right outside the Oval Office. How many of you love it when your boss leans over your shoulder, breathes down your neck, and tells you how to do your job? It happened at the White House, too. It happened a lot. And sometimes if we just weren't moving fast enough, if we weren't sort of making the edit that he had in mind, this next picture is not my proudest moment as a speechwriter, but it's one that I do enjoy sharing. If he thought we just weren't getting what he was trying to tell us, he'd kick us out, sit down, and do it himself. So that's the speechwriter in the back not writing the speech. So not my proudest moment as a speechwriter, but I share it because it is an example of a leader who in that moment is caring deeply about the words he's using to communicate his message, his vision, as we all should care deeply about the words that come out of our mouth. And the kinds of edits he would make, sometimes the edits were very light. This is an example of a pretty minimal edits from the president. Sometimes the edits could be a little bit more significant. Take us hours sometimes to sort of figure out what he was doing here and there. And then sometimes, again, if he felt there was a big idea that maybe we had missed in the draft, there's something at night up a stairs above the White House working on his speech, he would just break out his yellow legal pad and write the speech himself. And again, maybe as a speechwriter, you're feeling a little bad because, you missed something big. But again, here's a leader who's trying to get it right. Trying to communicate clearly to his audience. And so I took a lot of the lessons that I had in these 8 years. I put them into a book called Say It Well. It's been translated now into 8 different languages, including, I'm very grateful to say, German. I know what my name is. I know Say It Well. I don't know what the rest of that says. But I'm very grateful to Piper Verlag, publisher here in Munich, and Christina Erberg and Katja Menza for being here and for publishing this book and bringing it to German audiences. Thank you very much for doing that. And as Anya was saying, I'm going to have a workshop right after this upstairs, and we're going to have copies of the book on sale for anyone who's interested. I also try to use, now that I'm outside the White House, LinkedIn is probably the last nice place on the internet, I think, at this point. It's the one place where people aren't yelling and screaming at each other. It's the one place where people encourage you to do a good job. So I try to use it every day to share lessons and tips and skills in public speaking and how we can all be better communicators and speak with more civility, honesty, and empathy, because we sure do need that in the world. So many of us, I think, are already connected. If we're not, I'd love to be connected with you. Please send an invitation. I will accept. Some of you I connected with last night. Again, I try to use this as a teaching skill. So as I was working on this book, something happened on November 30th, 2022. I don't know, remember where you were, but I remember where I was. And this new thing called ChatGPT started circulating around. And it was generating language, and it was generating feedback and information in ways that we had never seen before. And so ever since then, and since the book came out, I get one question more than any other when I speak at conferences and whole workshops is, should I let AI write my speech? Should I let AI write my presentation? And it's tempting. I have a one-word answer. No. 9. Please do not do this. Please do not let AI write your presentation. A related question is, should I use AI to help with my presentation, to help with my speech? And the answer there is absolutely, yes, you can do this. I do it myself. And so I just want to spend the few minutes that I have left with you before we go into the workshop upstairs is to talk a little bit about just right ways, and I think less right ways, that we might use AI when we're communicating. I think there's a lot of wonderful ways that you can use AI as you're developing a speech, a presentation, a toast, anything. One of the ways that I like to use, help me brainstorm. It makes a wonderful brainstorming tool. If you're truly struggling to find an idea, you can ask Chat or any of the whatever tool you use, and all of a sudden you have more ideas than you know what to do with. Another way that I like to use it is help me outline. If you're truly struggling, you have 1,000 ideas, you don't know how they fit together. I think it's a great tool for using, for coming up with an outline that hopefully brings some order and some sense to your project and to your presentation. Help me find a quote. I do this. I mean, instead of going online or going to a book of quotations, I use AI for this all the time. Of course, you do have to be careful. Not everything you find is going to be correct. So, but one of the things I think, the example I always use is, you're giving a speech about justice, and everybody wants to quote Martin Luther King. And so what's the first quote do you think they think of? I want my children to be judged, not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. It's a beautiful line, right? It's absolutely, there's a reason we all know it. It's also one of the most cited lines in all of the English language. And so maybe when you're doing a presentation, you might want to do something different, something fresh. AI is a great tool for that. Help me explain this to a teenager. I think one of the mistakes, and we'll talk about in the workshop, is we're all experts in our fields. We get caught up in certain vocabulary and cliches and jargon that we think everyone understands, and they don't. And when your audience can't understand you, they can't understand you. And so I think if you have a presentation, I think AI is a wonderful tool for, make this appropriate for a teenager, make this appropriate for a 20-year-old. I do this. Help me cut 500 words. We all know that shorter is better, usually. Now, I do this. I think you might have 1,000 words. Ask Chat to cut it down to 500. I wouldn't take it wholesale. I think you got to go back and check. I think it loses a lot of the nuance of those of you who've tried to do this. But I do think it's a good prompt. No pun intended, but it's a great prompt to get you to think, what might I live without? We put so much heart and soul into our presentations. It's hard for us to decide what to let go, and Chat's brutal. So the reason I say, those are good tools. A lot of those things are the kinds of things we would used to ask our colleagues. We'd walk down the hall. So a lot of these things we can do. So AI is a wonderful tool for that. But the reason I say at the beginning, please, please, please don't just let a Chat or AI write some presentation that you're going to give us, some speeches, because I think we have to think deeply as speakers, what our audiences really, really want. When you are a human being, getting up on a stage like this, speaking to an audience like you. And I think there are several things that audiences will want now. And actually, I think as AI takes over more and more of our lives, I think and I hope that audiences will want even more of this. And the first of that is authenticity. Your audiences do not want, they want to know who you are, who you truly are. What makes you you? What makes you different from other people? Especially at an event like this, if you're one of many speakers. Don't just come out there with the same vague language that everyone's talking about. Speakers want an emotional connection. They want to know who you are. They want originality. Again, what can you offer that no one else can offer at that event? If you're the third or fourth person giving a toast to a colleague at their retirement, or the second or third person giving a toast at your parents' anniversary, and you realize as you're standing there, all the great stories that you were going to tell have been told by somebody else. maybe they weren't that original. I don't know what this man is doing, by the way, but I just thought it was a very original thing. He's doing something original, doing something that probably the audience didn't expect. When you give a speech, when you give a presentation, ask yourself, what can you do that's original? AI is not original by design, right? By definition. What is it doing? It's not creating new content. I'm not an AI expert, so those of you who are can correct me. But it's my understanding, it's going out there. It's synthesizing a tremendous amount of information. And a study just came out recently that analyzed a lot of scientific papers that found that ChatGPT tends to overuse about 454 words in particular that us humans don't tend to overuse. So here they are. Here's all 454. Don't use them. Okay, moving on. But it's not original. It's interesting, right, when you think about it. I teach political speech writing, and so I joke with my students, if you use any of these 454 words, you fail the course. I'll know you're using AI. But it's a great example. It's not original. It's not new language. It's a synthesis, and that's not what audiences want. What they're looking for are your fresh ideas. They want you to bring something new that they haven't heard before. And again, I think another study came out recently that I guess they put like MRI scans on people's brains as they used ChatGPT, and they found that their brain activity went down. Right? We're relying more and more on AI to do our thinking for us. And when we're doing that, how can we be truly fresh and original and creative if we're over-relying too much? Again, I'm talking about when it comes time to be a human talking to humans. Another reason that I suggest that please don't let AI write your speeches and presentations for you. Audiences want to hear about your values, right? It's not just about the product you're building or the service you're providing or the technology you're launching. They want to know who you are and who your organization is. What are your values? They're trying to decide whether to invest in you, whether to partner with you. A new employee is deciding to work for you. Who are you? What do you truly represent? What motivates you? You're just there about making money, or you're trying to do something else with your time, and you have a purpose beyond profit. And a bot is never going to know any of that. That has to come from here. That's what an audience wants to hear. Something else I think that a bot will never give, an audience wants to hear your vision for the future. What is the future that you see? What is it you're trying to do in the world? Again, I don't know what the prompt would be. Dear ChatGPT, please lay out 5 visions of the future that my company could bring to bear. Maybe they'll be fine, but will they be truly from your heart? Finally, again, I think a lot of this comes back to audiences want to know in this time, especially I think, again, as AI takes more and more of our lives, they want to know what's in your heart. I came across someone recently who told me they were struggling with writing a eulogy for someone that they loved, so they asked ChatGPT to do it. And I said, well, how did it turn out? They said, it wasn't half bad. And I thought, what a low bar. What a low bar. Someone you love, someone you admire, and you have the opportunity, can be scary, to speak and define their lives and to share the essence of their lives. And you turn to a machine in that most human of moments when the family and the friends were grieving and hurting and looking to you as a loved one, as a fellow human being, to help guide them through this one of life's most difficult and delicate moments, and you turn to a machine. I think we have to ask ourselves, I think as the previous speaker, what are we doing here? What is this technology for? What is our role? Audiences don't want robots. They want human beings. And we are here today, we are gathered here today. I am a human being. You are human beings. And the job here is to forge an emotional connection in the 4 minutes left that I have, that we can take with us and maybe think or act or feel differently when we leave this room. That's your job when you are a speaker. That's your job and your opportunity when you're invited anywhere to take the stage, take the microphone, take the podium. Audiences want human speakers. They want a human connection, especially, I think, as we rely so much more on AI in other parts of our lives. This space, this sacred space where we are together for a few moments should be a human moment. And so my major appeal to you today is that when you enter these moments and enter these spaces, that yes, you use an AI for all those ways to get ready, but when the moment comes to put down those words on paper, and it's so important to put down the words on paper, that you do it from your own heart. And when it doesn't happen, it hurts everybody. Some of you may have heard this recently. Sweden's deputy prime minister admits to using a fake AI quote in an important speech. So a big moment for her as a political leader. She relied too much on AI, and it undermined her credibility, her authenticity, her values, her vision. This is none of us want a headline like this, right? This deprives her of her humanity. And as one as one professor said when that happened, we didn't vote for ChatGPT. Humans voted for humans. Human decisions, human leadership, compassion, empathy, this is what we can still give. And I am not an AI expert, but I have spent 30 years helping humans talk to other humans, and I can tell you this is what people want. And this is where I hope. And so, as proof, one of the best examples, OpenAI, the very creator of ChatGPT, which people fear is going to wipe out all sorts of jobs, including storytelling and communications jobs, recently posted an ad for storytellers and communications positions. They're hiring humans. So there is, even the people at the heart of this revolution know in their own heart that we still need humans when it comes to communicating. And this is so much of what I talk about in the book. This is so much what I talk about in one particular chapter called Say What Only You Can Say. Every time you get up, you have an opportunity to share the experiences, tell the stories, offer the views that only you can share. That's what I'm going to focus on in the workshop. But this is what people are looking for. This is my 30 years of experience. This is what I feel audiences want, right? They want your authenticity, your originality. They want your fresh ideas. Again, none of this can come from a bot. Your voice, your life experiences, your story can never come from a bot. And our voice is the most powerful thing that we have in this world. And my appeal to you today is don't ever give your voice over to a bot. Don't ever give over your humanity to a machine. And I just want to leave you with one example of someone who I used to work for, who I thought did this pretty well, in particular, when he was a candidate for president of the United States. And he came to Berlin, and he gave a speech to the people of Germany and the people of the world. And this is how he opened his speech. And I think if you listen closely, he did just about every single thing I just spoke about. And it could have never come from a machine.
I come to Berlin as so many of my countrymen have come before. Although tonight I speak to you not as a candidate for president, but as a citizen. A proud citizen of the United States and a fellow citizen of the world. I know that I don't look like the Americans who've previously spoken in this great city.
That's original.
The journey that led me here is improbable. My mother was born in the heartland of America, but my father grew up herding goats in Kenya. His father my grandfather, was a cook, a domestic servant to the British. At the height of the Cold War, my father decided, like so many others in the forgotten corners of the world, that his yearning, his dream, required the freedom and opportunity promised by the West. And so he wrote letter after letter to universities all across America until somebody, somewhere, answered his prayer for a better life. That is why I am here. And you are here because you too know that yearning. This city, of all cities, knows the dream of freedom.
So that was just the opening. Do you think there's a machine in the world that could have given you that? Maybe you do. We can debate. I really don't. I think the heart and soul in that, he did so much of what I've talked about, the originality, saying what only he could say, and that is something that we tried to do. Every time we helped him around the world, every time we go to another country, particularly on his visits to Germany, we were trying to help him forge a human connection with the audience. And we can debate it, we can discuss it, but I would love to come back in 20 years. And I believe that so long as there are humans gathering with other humans in moments like this, we will continue to look for humanity in each other, the kind of humanity that comes from human speakers who don't rely on machines. So thank you very much, and I hope some of you can join us upstairs.